We're 6 weeks into the NFL season, and there's so many storylines to talk about this past week. What a week of football. Hey, I'm glad that football obviously is still going on. Not just NFL football, we obviously have college football as well that we're going to dive into maybe later on. Absolutely. But today we're going to go over week 6 recap, touching over some of the biggest stories over this past week. Hey, I am your host, Javen Takar. This is Run Amok. Thank you so much for tuning in to this video, to this podcast, whichever way you're consuming this. I appreciate you. Don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think about any of these stories that I'm going to cover here today for you. How are you doing today? Again, hey, I hope you're doing well. And I hope you had a great week of football. I hope your team won. If they didn't win, hopefully they win next week and we cover them. If they didn't play, if they're on a bye week, then hey, again, hopefully they win next week and we will cover them then. But let's dive right into this week. We're going to skip over Thursday Night Football. I don't think there's many stories to be told there, except for the 49ers are potentially back, baby. Of course, I'm a Niner fan. If you are a Niner fan, hey, go ahead and tune into the Gold Rush podcast where I will talk and cover the Niners more. So if you're not a Niners fan, forget about it. You can throw that out the window. Let's dive into London. Let's go out there to the UK. Chicago Bears going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Bears take the dub 35-16 against the one-win Jaguars. And boy, oh boy, the Chicago Bears have caught fire these past couple of weeks. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been struggling. They're sitting now at 1-5. The Chicago Bears at 4-2. Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk? Of course, rookie quarterback number 1 overall, Caleb Williams, has been slicing and dicing defenses left and right, going 23 for 29 in London, 226 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 really ugly interception early in the game. But hey, what we like to see with these young quarterbacks, short-term memory. He threw that bad interception. He didn't let it affect him. And he went on and had a really, really good game. He had a very tough, weeks 1 through maybe 3-ish or so. But the past couple weeks, he's playing some easier defenses. And he is balling. He's beating teams that he should beat. And we're really seeing a lot of progress with Caleb Williams' development. I would definitely excited to see him go up against some of the tougher teams. But all in all, the flashes are there. He's making some tight window throws. The Chicago Bears, I don't know what Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, has been up to. He looked very bad those first couple weeks. But now it seems like the offensive playbook is opening up a little bit. Caleb Williams is building out of structure. He's scrambling a lot more. He looks a lot more confident. And DeAndre Swift, of course, he had a lot of trash talked about him. But hey, he went 17 carries, 91 yards, and a touchdown. He's been looking very solid as well. Caleb Williams throwing 2 touchdowns each to Cole Kmet and Keenan Allen. Those look like his favorite targets in the red zone. Would love to see Roman Dunze get more involved. He got 2 catches for 40 yards. I think that connection could be something special. But also, hey, might as well go to your veterans while you're at it. DJ Moore, 4 receptions for 20 yards. But let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars a little bit. Trevor Lawrence, hey, he looks a little shaky. The first couple weeks, everybody was saying the Jaguars are bad. It's a Doug Peterson problem. It seems like it's just an entire team and culture problem. Trevor Lawrence, it seems like his confidence is shot. He was on top of the world at one point. They led this team to the playoffs. They got a great comeback win. And now it just seems like this is a completely different quarterback we're seeing. He's having difficulties going through his reads. And hey, if it isn't Trevor Lawrence, if he makes a good throw, he makes a good read, then it's the receivers dropping passes that they should catch. It's the receivers maybe not creating separation. I mean, it is a horror fest in Jacksonville. Evan Ingram, the leading receiver for 10 receptions, 102 yards. Gabe Davis, the second leading receiver, and he struggled mightily. 5 receptions for 45 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, kind of fluky though. I'm not bought in on the Gabe Davis train at all. He had some very ugly drops. And even this running back core, I mean, they kind of want to have a committee, it seems. Maybe they don't. Maybe they want to lean on Travis Etienne, who had 3 carries for -1 yards. He's a little banged up. Okay, then we got Tank Bigsby, the rookie. He had 7 carries for 24 yards. Oh, but wait, the leading rusher is D'Ernest Johnson for 6 carries for 28 yards. So I don't know the direction that Jacksonville wants to go. This team really has no identity, no soul. And I think that it's going to start with the head coach. I think Doug Peterson is not the guy to lead this team. This is a team that went through a rebuild and are still in that phase. They went through the rebuild. They thought they were good to go, but they were not. Absolutely not. The moves they made were minor, and this is a team that's going to be picking in the top 5 this year for sure. And frankly, I don't even know where they go because their defense has a bunch of holes. Their offense has a bunch of holes. I mean, their offensive line is horrendous. Maybe you go Will Campbell in the draft, but that's another conversation. Overall, the Jacksonville Jaguars are looking really ugly out there, and the Chicago Bears looking very solid. Caleb is heating up. The Bears are heating up. It's looking nice out there. Let's move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They murder the Saints 51-27. We got a 50 burger. I wasn't going to talk about this game actually, but I did want to touch on it real quick. Hey, shout out Baker Mayfield. Shout out the guys out there in Tampa Bay because they're lighting it up this season. Let's see, Baker Mayfield. I listened to the Stay Hot podcast, and they were talking about Baker Mayfield and how he was very ugly on throws over 10 yards. He was like 1 for 10 or something like that. No touchdowns. He was very ugly over 10 yards. And frankly, 4 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. He didn't have the greatest of games, but this team still scored 51 points. This is a team that's going to potentially win the NFC South. Of course, there's also the Atlanta Falcons. I think it is going to be a dogfight between those two. But yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, everything is clicking for him, even on the run game. Bucky Irving, who is supposed to be the lead back, 14 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown, but he got outshined by Sean Tucker, number 44, who I don't think anybody really saw coming into the picture. 14 carries, 136 yards and a touchdown. So Tampa Bay is loving running their committee. First it was Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. Now it's Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker, it seems. Maybe Rachaad White gets traded. I don't know. But Tampa Bay, yes, they are a dangerous offensive machine. And then their defense, he had, of course, Spencer Rattler in a mix. Spencer Rattler getting his first start with Derek Carr injured. Spencer Rattler went 22 for 40, 243 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. The Saints were a very well put together team. They looked really solid the first 2-3 weeks, but now they're sitting at 2-4. They've kind of fell down to earth, and it's not a super great team that I think that I wasn't fooled personally. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now they're sitting at 4-2. They're looking very promising, and it's going to be fun to see how they progress throughout the season. What their final record is going to be? Maybe 10-7, maybe 11-6. I don't know. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are definitely a team that I feel like they could lose to any team, but they could also beat any team. They could go out there against Kansas City and step up toe for toe. So I think that the Buccaneers are just a team that everybody's going to have fun watching. Speaking of fun, though, maybe the most fun game of the entire week, the Washington Commanders versus the Baltimore Ravens. Jaden Daniels versus Lamar Jackson. The Ravens get the dub in this matchup, 30-23. But boy, was it fun. Watching two somewhat similar quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson has definitely progressed himself as a way better passer than maybe a lot of people gave him credit for. And Jaden Daniels, the rookie, who's really grown into his own. He's out there slinging it. Him and Terry McLaurin are clicking on all levels. But the Commanders' defense is a serious concern. And with the NFC powerhouses, I don't see how they're going to keep up if they do sneak a playoff spot in. I don't really see them slowing down the 49ers of the NFL. Even the Detroit Lions, I think. The Green Bay Packers, I don't see the Commanders slowing them down. Maybe it'll be a shootout, but I also feel like their offense going up against a really good defense like the Baltimore Ravens. They showed some really good stuff, getting pressure on Jaden Daniels, stopping a lot of the underneath stuff. I think that's the key ways to beat the Washington Commanders. And so, sure, the pieces are there. You've got your franchise guy in Jaden Daniels, but it's just that situation of that defense. That's the big concern. And now Jonathan Allen, he's out for, I believe, the rest of the season. He had a pec injury, so that's a big blow to the team. And yeah, so all around, just the Commanders, the secondary is absolutely cooked. I like Frankie Louvu. I think Bobby Wagner, he's basically into the end of his career. Like, their linebackers aren't the greatest things in the world. I like Luvu, but is he really game changing? Not necessarily. So yeah, the Commanders. I mean, this is again. Hey, they're already exceeding any expectations this team had. They're sitting at a 4-2 record. So are the Baltimore Ravens. So they're exceeding their expectations, I think. And as long as they don't really come back down to earth and they kind of ride this high for a little bit, we can see some good stuff. But I think that it could get ugly going up against some elite offenses in the entire NFL come playoff time. Let's go on to the Colts and the Titans. I don't really want to touch on this game too much. A little bit boring. The Colts get the win 20-17. Joe Flacco is leading that team at the moment. Anthony Richardson is banged up a little bit. And Flacco's got this team cooking. He's got all the receivers involved. Josh Downs, Michael Pittman. But I mean, he isn't the future. Obviously, again, he's nearing the end of his career. The Colts are kind of not meeting the expectations. I think a lot of people really thought that Anthony Richardson was going to take that next step as a passer. But he really hasn't. He really hasn't shown those signs. And I think that he's going to need another year, maybe two, to progress. But the thing about the Colts is, they're not really going to be contending anytime soon as long as they've got Anthony Richardson on that rookie contract, especially. So, you can kind of take all the time that you need with him, in my opinion, at least. Their defense is solid, but my biggest question here is how much longer until the Titans replace Will Levis? Let's be real. This experiment has gone downhill. Somehow this young quarterback who showed some potential got worse. Somehow Will Levis got worse than what he was last year. I know if some of you are on sports Twitter or even sports TikTok, anything, he's getting memed left and right. Every week he's produced a picture. He tore, I guess, one of the sideline guys. He tore his ACL or something like that. I mean, it's absurd. I think that the Titans, they're never going to be good with Will Levis out there. I just don't think he's going to progress into a meaningful NFL quarterback. And Tony Pollard has exceeded my expectations personally. I thought that he wasn't going to be as good as he was, so at least the Titans have that going for them. Calvin Ridley had a lot of really ugly drops. Their defense really isn't anything special. L'Jarius Sneed, I know he's been getting picked on a little bit. I think Flacco was really targeting him. Like, he really could not stop Michael Pittman. So yeah, the Titans are a team that I see just going downhill, and I don't really know how to fix that team. That team, they need to be bad for a while. I think they need to get some number 1 overall draft picks. Let's go on to the Houston Texans and the New England Patriots. I don't want to spend too much time on this game again because at the end of the day, it was a blowout, 41-21. The Texans obviously are good. We know CJ Stroud's balling out. We know how good their defense is. Will Anderson had 3 sacks on Drake Maye, but that's who I want to talk about. Drake Maye, the rookie quarterback, making his debut finally for the New England Patriots, and this team looked infinitely better with Drake Maye under center. Yes, they lost by 20 points. I think if they were going up against any other team, I think it would have been a lot more competitive. Maybe not any other team, but if they went up against a team that was bad, per se, if they went up against like the Colts or the Titans or something, I think that they would have looked a lot more competitive and potentially even won. Drake Maye showed some really, really nice flashes. 3 touchdowns. I want to say 2 interceptions. One of them was really ugly. The other was kind of just poor luck. But yeah, 20 for 33, 243 yards. He was the leading rusher, 5 carries for 38 yards. Antonio Gibson got 13 carries for 19 yards. Ramondre Stevenson was hurt this game. And what I really loved about Drake Maye is he was really spreading that ball out. We saw Demario Douglas. He got 6 catches for 92 yards. We saw Kayshon Boutte get involved. He got 3 receptions. Hunter Henry got 3 receptions. He targeted Gibson 3 receptions. Kendrick Bourne got 2 receptions. So he was really sharing that ball around. I think that he looked really, really solid, and the flashes are there. Of course, nobody expected his first game that he was going to come out and be record-breaking and be this and be that. It's his first NFL football game going up against a dang good defense. So the expectations were low, but I think he exceeded them, or at least met them, because he looked solid. The flashes were there. He had some really good throws. His touchdown, he was slinging that thing. I think that the confidence will build. The Patriots, they just have a really ugly offensive line, man. Their O-line is really bad. As I mentioned, Will Anderson, 3 sacks. So hopefully when the Patriots, after the season, maybe they go out, maybe they draft some linemen, they sign some linemen, and they really build a wall for Drake Maye to be protected. Because I think if Maye gets some time, he will cook with I think whoever out there, I think the Patriots might want to build up the old line through the draft, build young, and maybe get some veterans as receivers. And I think that Drake May can really cook with whoever you throw out there for him. So I think that May is something special that the Patriots are going to really be happy about. Moving on, this game was ugly, man. The Cleveland Browns versus the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles get the dub 16-20, but this game was close all throughout. I mean, hello, Philadelphia? What are we doing? I thought they were supposed to be a cerebral NFC contender. They were supposed to be contending for the 1 seed here. They could barely beat the Cleveland. I thought the Browns were actually going to take away this game. The big question is Nick Sirianni on the hot seat? You know, we saw he was taunting his own fan base. What are we doing, my guy? This team is a weak team that when they get punched in the face, they don't know how to respond. They don't. And the Browns, their defense isn't as good as it was last season, but they're still going to play aggressive ball. They're not going to give you anything easy. And I think that Philly wasn't ready for this, and I think that Jalen Hurts is kind of having a down year. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, they missed last week. They were back this week. They were obviously huge for the offense. I mean, it's kind of obvious that the Philadelphia Eagles were going to win this game because they have so much star power, so much firepower. You know, and you've got those guys out wide. You expect to win this football game, but this should not have been close. The Browns got a blocked field goal, and they got a touchdown off of it. Rodney McLeod, and I believe he's leading the team in touchdowns. So the Browns themselves, they're a bad, dysfunctional team, and they've got their own issues to deal with. But the Philadelphia Eagles, I think, are like, their issues are more glaring. I feel bad for Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland I feel like he needs to start Deshaun Watson, and I think that it's less of a coaching decision, more of an ownership decision. Hey, we're paying this guy all this money. He's going to play. He's going to play, and he better figure it out. If he doesn't, oh well, at least we tried. And it sucks because Stefanski is such a good coach. But no, yeah, there's no silver lining for the Cleveland Browns, and the Philadelphia Eagles looked really bad. So yeah, this was an ugly game between two broken teams, but I guess Philly came out on top. They're sitting at 3-2. I am excited to watch them match up against the Washington Commanders. I want to see if the Commanders have the scheme in place to beat them. And hey, I would love to see the Commanders win that division, frankly, because the Eagles or the Dallas Cowboys, who are going to be the next team that we touch on, I don't see how either of them deserve to win this division. They have shown zero flashes. The Dallas Cowboys, their second blowout this season. First was to the New Orleans Saints, the first couple weeks of the season. Now the Detroit Lions come into Jerry's world and they put a beating on the Dallas Cowboys, 47-9. Wow. Let's just take a moment and let's just sulk. Let's just sulk in that insane defeat. Great. Let's also take, actually, that will also be a moment of silence for Aiden Hutchinson. Very unfortunate, very gruesome injury. He breaks his tibia and his fibula in his leg. It was an ugly injury. He was coming around the edge. Bang. One of his teammates' knee collides with his leg, and it literally wrapped around the leg dang near. And somehow, some way, he still came down with the sack, and you could see him screaming in pain as he's going down. And Dak Prescott is almost about to fall on his leg, and he's pushing him away. As a defensive lineman that also broke his fibula, not his tibia. The tibia is where it gets crazy, but the fibula, I guess I kind of understand that mindset. I guess actually not really. I take that back. The tibia is crazy, man. The tibia, for those that don't know, there's a tibia and there's a fibia in your lower leg. Everybody, obviously, if you go down and you feel your lower leg right now, that big bone, that's your tibia. There's one smaller one that you can just hardly feel. That's your fibula. He broke both of those. It was a compound fracture, which I believe means that it broke skin. I mean, just a very unfortunate, very gruesome injury for the Detroit Lions. And this is a season-altering injury. Obviously, it's season-ending. Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, I hope to see him back on the field next season, man. It is super unfortunate because he was a beast, man. Nobody can block him one-on-one. And he was well on his way to potentially becoming the Defensive Player of the Year. He was just having one of those seasons that every play he was a part of. So it feels bad, man. And in the Detroit Lions, I definitely expect them to make a move for an edge rusher. Hassan Reddick is obviously on the market. I wonder if they would want to go and make a deal done with him. There's other edge rushers that they can go out and get with the trade deadline approaching, but they should be on the phones because the other guys that they have, they cannot replicate 1% of what Aiden Hutchinson brings. And very unfortunate. Prayers for Hutchinson. And the Dallas Cowboys stink up the place. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, the Bengals versus the Giants. I wanted to touch on this game a little bit because I can't tell what the Bengals are. Are they for real here? Are they for real? Are they for real letting the Giants hang in this game? I can't tell because I came into this game saying, listen, the Cincinnati Bengals, they're a very good one-win team. You know, this is a team that if they sneak into the playoffs, they're going to beat maybe one, they're going to win 1 or 2 games. You know, they're going to compete. Yes, they get the win, 17-7, but the Giants were in it, man. They were in it, and it makes me, I can't tell if it's the Bengals going bad or the Giants actually being a competent football team. Brian Daboll was coaching his butt off, and I just feel like Daniel Jones is not his guy, and I think the writing is on the walls. Daboll deserves to get his guy. Before you give up on Brian Daboll and fire him, I think that you need to give up on Daniel Jones and eat the cap hit and let Daboll get his guy and see what he could work with. Because I do think that Daboll's a heck of a coach. You know, we saw what he did with Josh Allen, of course. And I think that if you get a guy with that type of prototype, I think that we've seen Daniel Jones peak. We've seen Daniel Jones peak, and he's not going to get back up there anytime soon. I think the Giants, like, they really might be, honestly, like a quarterback away and some O-line help and maybe, you know, a key cornerback or something, because their pass rush looked really good this game. You know, Brian Burns finally had an impactful game. Sexy Dexy Lawrence, he had a big game. He's had a heck of a season as well. So finally the pass rush is really getting there. I think if you get some guys in the secondary to make some plays and you protect your quarterback, whoever that may be, I think that this Giants team could really be something special under the leadership of Brian Daboll. Of course, we know Malik Neighbors is a baller. Unfortunately, he was out this game with a concussion, but once he's back, you know, the offense runs through Neighbors, and I think if Daboll's able to get a quarterback that he can trust to deal to other guys and do what he wants to do with this offense, now we'll see a competent Giants team. But now, for the time being, this Giants team isn't going to be very good, which is unfortunate for Brian Daboll. But the Cincinnati Bengals, again, I think they'll be all right. At the end of the day, they got the dub, so you can't complain too much. And they're sitting at 2-4, but, you know, something needs to change. They really need to find their stepping, and they need to find their stepping fast. This is another team where I feel like their defense could be better. Their defense could be better. And yeah, Trey Hendrickson, obviously he's doing good on the D-line there, but all in all, though, I don't know how this defense is going to keep up with some of the powerhouse offense of the AFC. But hey, Cincinnati, I'm not counting y'all out yet. But if they do sneak into the playoffs, listen, I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him compete. Joe Burrow, he's doing his thing. Jamar Chase, all the guys, they're doing their thing. They sneak by against the New York Giants, getting the dub by 10. And now, moving on, finally the last game here of the week, Monday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills versus the New York Jets. What an interesting game. The Buffalo Bills get the win, 23-20. It was a good game. Obviously, you could tell from the score. But the only thing is, this whole game was kind of ruined by refs. And I don't throw that around just loosely. The referees really control this game. It was like a flag, it seemed like every other play. And a lot of offsetting penalties, which is like, what? So this is the most penalties in a game and the most penalty yards given in a game, which just kind of goes to show what was going on here. There was some ugly defensive pass interferences on both sides. First, I thought the Jets were getting screwed up, but then the Bills had some ugly calls. And it was just both ways. It was like they were trying to make makeup call and then making up for that makeup call and then making up for making up that makeup call. And it was ugly. The refs were controlling this game, and it was very unfortunate to see. But going over to the teams, I feel like the New York Jets, man, they might be cursed. They might be a cursed team. They fired Robert Saleh. They didn't even get the interim head coach boost that most teams get. Aaron Rodgers, he's still dicey. he had a really sick throw, and in the Bills linebacker, it literally went right by his hip and perfectly into the gut of the New York Jets receiver. That was a heck of a throw up the seam. But yeah, and he had a Hail Mary throw too at the end of the first half. Aaron Rodgers is still dicing, but you can definitely see the impact of him not having a guy to rely on. He wants it to be Garrett Wilson, but him and Wilson are just not on the same page right now. If the Jets go out and they get Devontae, okay, maybe they can get back to being this elite team, this AFC contender. But for the time being, I really don't see them. They're sitting at 2-4. It's gonna be tough to come back from that in the AFC. I think that you have to go out and get Devontae just to make Rodgers happy and make him comfortable in this offense. I guess he was a guy that you think that he would be able to come in and he can work with anybody. I think most people thought that. I thought that. But obviously it seemed like that was not the case. Rodgers wants his guy, Devontae Adams. Because you see the connection with Alan Lazard. Like him and Lazard are clicking. They always know where each other are at. Lazard knows when that ball is coming out. Rodgers knows when he wants that ball to come out, where he wants Lazard to be. You see that. He had a really good touchdown to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson got his feet tiptoeing in the back of the end zone. You see that. Breece Hall had a heck of a game. These young guys, they're just too fast for Rodgers or something. I don't know. But I think getting Devontae Adams would boost this Jets team big time. And the Bills, they kind of just look like the same old Bills, frankly. Year by year, I feel like the Bills are a team that don't change very much. And yeah, they lost Stephon Diggs, but it really didn't look like it impacted this game. Josh Allen, he went 19 for 25, 250 yards, and 2 touchdowns. His leading receiver was the running back Ray Davis for 3 receptions for 55 yards. And then Dalton Kincaid, who we saw had a big game, 6 receptions, 51 yards. Their receiving core isn't the greatest. Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Mac Hollins, he got a touchdown today. But Josh Allen is doing what he's doing, and he's delivering the ball in very comfortable spaces for his receivers to make the catch. Their defense looks solid. I really like their linebacker, Terrell Bernard. Number 43, Terrell Bernard's having a heck of a season. He was looking really good. He was the guy who the ball went right by his hip, but he was all over the ball. I think he looked very solid. Rasul Douglas had a really solid play where Tyrone Smith, who I think Tyrone Smith, at this point, he is washing his career. He's the left tackle for the Jets. He's supposed to protect Rodgers' blind side. Rodgers is getting beat up, man. This Jets O-line is supposed to be new and improved and revamped, but boy, he is getting beat up. When they rock the white jerseys, Tyrone Smith was going out for a block on a screen for Breece Hall, and Rasul Douglas made a heck of a play where he dodged, pretty much stopped Tyrone Smith in his tracks, hit a little juke move dang near, went under the block, and made a heck of a tackle on Breece Hall. So that was a pretty impressive play. Overall, the Bills, they get the dub 23-20 on Monday Night Football. What a week of football. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate you. If you didn't and you just skipped through the video, that's okay. That's all right. Hey, go ahead and check the description below for my TikTok, my Instagram. I'm posting my power rankings on the Instagram and the TikTok. So go ahead, take a look at those. Let me know what you agree with. Let me know what you disagree with. Maybe give me a little subscribe. Give me a like. Let me know what you think in the comments. I always love chatting with y'all. I will see y'all next week, folks. Take it easy. Drink your water. Peace out.